In this video, we're going to be looking at the main key differences between trading tennis on Betfair and trading football on Betfair. Now, if you usually trade football and you don't quite get what tennis trading is all about, then keep watching, as this video is going to be very, very interesting. And for those who do stick around to the end, I'm also going to tell you how you can download this tennis trading freebie for absolutely free. I hope you're ready. Let's get into it. And so before we get started, I just want to quickly stress that this video isn't a versus video in the aspect of what is better out of football trading and tennis trading. This video is more just to give you an idea of the key differences that you have to keep in mind when you are trading these sports. I've got a lot of people who are regular sports trading live viewers, and the majority all trade football, and some of them very interested in trading tennis but can't quite get their head around it. So hopefully this video should help you get a much better idea of what it's all about and the main key differences between trading football and trading tennis. Now, often what happens is I get many people on my email list. They start off trading football, doesn't quite work for them, and then they move over to trading tennis, and then they email me and they say, do you know what, Ben, I'm never going back to football. I'm sticking with tennis forever. And the main reason for that is the main key difference between football trading and tennis trading is that tennis trading will have more opportunity per match. All right. Now, if you traded football, you know that the key opportunity really comes when a goal is scored. That's pretty much what you're looking for the really big swings in the markets. All right. There is time decay where you know you're going against the goals and you're staying in the market when there are no goals. But for the real big swings, it is looking for a goal to be scored in football. That's pretty much what football trading is all about. Okay, but at the same time, football matches don't always guarantee goals. Okay, many football matches could end 0-0, as I'm sure you're aware. And even then, I mean, the average football match has 2.5 goals. All right, so you're looking at 2.5 big opportunities per match. All right, on average. Let's just put it like that. But in tennis, it's the complete opposite, because in tennis, I mean, the big movements in the prices all come from break points. If you've seen the earlier video on how to trade tennis, then definitely check that out if you're still not sure about that. But it is the break points that move the markets. But it's not just the break points; it's also the chance of a break point developing, which can move the markets. I mean, the markets in tennis move with every single point. All right. Roger Federer has just scored a point to go 15 love up. The markets move. All right. The markets, albeit in that case, probably not a lot, but the markets move no matter what. If they move on every single point, and every single point is an opportunity potentially. If you think about it like that, the really big opportunities are going to come at the break points, and even then, especially in women's tennis, there could be a lot of break points per match. I mean, there could be 4-4 on break points just by the end of the first set. I've seen happen. I mean, some matches end up with 10 break point opportunities, and so you can imagine it's almost like having a football match with 10 goals. That is pretty much what it comes down to when you're looking at trading tennis versus trading football, is that in tennis trading, the opportunities are potentially limitless as well, because the matches can technically go on forever and ever and ever until someone wins, right? They cannot end in a draw. So you're pretty much guaranteed there are going to be opportunities, all right, if you're on the right side of it. But in football, not so much, all right? There is a chance that it could be 0-0. There is a chance it could just be 1-0, and so on. And on average, you're probably only going to get 2.5 goals or 2.5 big opportunities per match in football. So that there is the main key difference, and is probably the number one reason why a lot of people stop trading football and then move to trading tennis and then never look back. So that is something to keep in mind. And then the next one we're going to look at is that one of the key differences is that tennis trades are quite quick. Okay, and I think a bit of a myth about tennis trading from those who haven't really done it is that, because as I touched upon, tennis matches could go on potentially forever. There is no clock in a tennis match. I mean, some tennis matches go on for hours, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. So a lot of people kind of think, oh no, I could be stuck in a trade for 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. And they kind of just ignore tennis trading because of that. But yeah, that's a bit of a myth. In reality, when you actually get down to trading tennis, you'll find the actual trades and the actual time in the market are very, very quick. And honestly, the way I trade tennis very often is I've got all the matches up that I want to follow on flash scores. I'm waiting for something in particular to happen. Once I see it happen, I head over to the market, I get in with my strategy, and I could be out. I could be out within a minute. I could be out within 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15. Very, very quick, though. Very, very quick trades. I don't think I've ever been in a tennis trade for more than an hour. Probably not even more than half an hour. Very, very rare that happens, all right? But there are football trades that I can say I've definitely been in for more than an hour or more than 90 minutes. I mean, we've all been there, laying the draw at kickoff, waiting for a goal or something like that, and then you're kind of stuck in a bad situation until maybe the 90th minute. That can easily happen. And if anything, the opposite is quite rare in football, that I get in a trade and then I'm out a minute later or something like that. It's usually a bit of a wait until you get the goal that you need, all right? So, yeah, it is a bit of a myth that it can be just very time-consuming to trade tennis. Actually, it's the complete opposite. It can be very... Well, I can't quite think of the opposite word for time-consuming, but it can just be very quick and simple trades. So that's a very key difference. You're in and out of the market very, very quickly with tennis trading. All right. And then, on that note as well, I do get a lot of people always say, oh, do I have to watch the matches with tennis? I kind of find it a bit boring and all that sort of thing, which again is a bit of a myth. It's definitely not a boring sport, especially when you're trading it, put it that way. But again, like I said, what I do is I've got all the matches up on flash scores. Once I see the opportunity, get in the market, and I watch the match while I'm in the market. That is definitely very important because these markets are moving so quick that you want to keep on top of stuff. So I stay in the market while I'm in the trade, which again, it might only be a minute, it might only be 5 minutes, 10 minutes or whatever. And like I said, you're definitely not bored. Every point moves the market. So there is always an opportunity. There's always something happening, okay? So there's that to keep in mind, all right? And the next big difference, I would say, between trading football and trading tennis is that I actually think tennis trading is easier to read, which again, I think there's a lot of people just thinking, oh, hold on, that can't be right. Now, keep in mind, this is coming from somebody like myself who was originally always into football. I never watched tennis at all before I started trading it. So I didn't have a clue about the game. And to be honest, I still don't have much of a clue about the game. Definitely, it's definitely a lot better than it was. But tennis is pretty easy to read, as in the better player usually it goes on to win the match, all right? You can't really say the same with football because sometimes a team that is dominating, they could be dominating the ball, dominating possession, having all these shots on target. The other team's parking the bus, and then one quick counter-attack, and then that team scores that one goal and then wins the match from there. In tennis, because it's a one-on-one sport, the player that is dominating is usually not necessarily maybe going to go on and win the match, but he's definitely at least going to go on and take the lead, so score the next break point in those particular situations. And then maybe the match changes, and obviously you have to reassess. So it can be much easier to read. I mean, sometimes you're watching a tennis match, you're just saying, look, this player is serving really well. And again, it's very simple to identify when a player is serving well versus serving badly. And you just say, hey, look, this player, he or she, serving really well. The other player not serving too well. This player is probably going to score the next break point. And if so, you could back that player or lay the other player, depending. And you would have a pretty high strike rate just even trading tennis like that. In football, not so much. And remember, because football's such a low-scoring game, that if you were to back a team that is dominant, yeah, of course, you are going to get a lot of wins. But because it's such a low-scoring low scoring sport, if you do get that counter attack against you and then the underdog scores a surprise goal from nowhere, suddenly it is all against you. It's all really, really mounting up against you, because you then need the that team to equalize to get back into it, to bring the odds back, and so on and so on and so on. So I would definitely say that tennis trading is a lot easier to read than football. And also, just for the simple fact that, remember, when a player is serving, only when they're serving can they concede a break point, okay? So you could go against that player when they're serving, if you wish, and then get out the market when the other player is serving. You know, I don't want to start giving away too many strategies here in this particular video, but that's just one of your angles that you can take with tennis trading. It is the equivalent of backing a football team when they're attacking, and then getting out of the market when the other team has a free kick outside the box or something like that. So that's just something to keep in mind. It is a lot easier to read. It really, really is. You'll be surprised, and I mean this even for someone who has never watched tennis before. Believe me. So there is that. And then also there is the fact that there is no market suspensions. That is a key difference between football trading and tennis trading. All right. So we know football, goal goes in or a red card. I mean, the market suspends. Now, what can often happen in football as well, especially on Betfair, who knows what goes on Betfair behind the scenes, but very often you're going to see random market suspensions just during the match for no apparent reason. We've all been there trading a football match where suddenly the market suspends and you're like, oh, hold on, what? Is that a goal? And you're sitting there waiting, and then, well, nothing happens. But then the market remains suspended, and then it unsuspends, and then you're like, well, what was that about? And yeah, I mean, honestly, it really is baffling. And if I had my way, and I don't want to go too much off topic here, but if I had my way, I would get rid of suspending the market. Just have it as a pure exchange. And if people want to back a team when when there's a penalty, for instance, then let them do it. Just let them do it. Let everyone have their money in the market. And on that note, you can also see that I've written here there's no VAR. Okay, so VAR in football trading is a very frustrating new feature for us football traders, just for the simple fact that, hey, goal goes in, you think it's the goal you need, and then, as you've seen with some VAR, 5 minutes later on, suddenly the goal's disallowed. And yeah, I mean, if there's anything that could put you on tilt, it's a VAR decision against you in football trading, especially when you know that you've traded out already, and then you're confused about what the Betfair exchange is going to do with that. Are they going to void your bet? Are they not? Again, I think everything should stand. It should just be a pure exchange. You know, I put my bet in. If someone takes it, that's it. It's all final, all right? And that is exactly how it is with tennis trading. The markets never get suspended at key moments. And remember, break points move the markets pretty drastically, especially in the final set. You can see a market completely flip from one side to the next just on a break point being scored or not being scored in the final set of a tennis match. So in theory, really, the Betfair should be suspending the markets in tennis on the final set, but they don't, which is good because it just makes the market more free. But at the same time, what can happen very often in tennis is that a ball might look like it was in, or it might look like it was out, or whatever, and then the markets move because everyone's assumed that the ball was in or the ball was out. And then there's a challenge similar to like a VAR. It's called the Hawkeye challenge, and then we have a look to see if the ball was in or out. All right, and then sometimes the markets have got it wrong. They got it completely wrong, and you see the price quickly move when Hawkeye corrects it. Right now, you would think that your money would be void because in the football trading with the VAR, yeah, your money's void if that happens. If a goal goes in, and then you lay the markets, you lay a team. At that particular moment, and then the goal is chalked off, then your trade, at the time of recording this video, your trade gets voided. But in tennis, that doesn't happen like that. So very often, you could get in the market because, yeah, you think with your own eyes, do you know what, that ball was in, that ball was out, you've got to be pretty fast to do it. And yeah, you can win quick trades like that. And very often, sometimes if I'm trying to get a bet matched, I will put in an order in the market, because sometimes the markets just go a little bit wild on certain points, and those people trading at the event itself, they move the market very quickly, and they might move it in the wrong direction. They take my bet, which is great, and then it moves the other way. Okay, so that is another great reason why the no market suspensions and the no VAR is a great. It's a great thing for tennis trading. Okay, the Hawkeye is a benefit to tennis trading, because it can throw up the rare opportunities like I just mentioned, whereas in football it's a complete mess at the moment on the betting exchange. And like I said, they should just be done with it. There shouldn't be any reason to suspend the market. Let everyone put in their bets and let everyone manage their positions as the match develops, right? Or if there is a VAR decision, let people bet on that. Let people decide in whether they think it's going to stand, whether it's not going to stand. Let them put their money in the market. Let's see what happens. But anyway, there is that. That's a big key difference. And I know a lot of people who start to trade tennis after trading football, they get kind of thrown off by that. They're like, oh, what, the markets are not suspending? Or what's going on here? But yeah, that is one of the key differences to keep in mind. And another key difference is that there is action all year round. Now, there is action all year round with football, of course, but with tennis, it's actually top-level action all year round, okay? There is ATP and WTA tour matches pretty much all year round, apart from December. And let's face it, we're all busy in December anyway with other stuff, all right? Christmas parties and all that sort of thing. So, yeah, there is top-level action all year round. And it is like the equivalent of having Premier League football from, say, January all the way through to November, all right? Now, we know Premier League takes a break. It's pretty much done by May, June, July, and then it starts again in the middle of August. So, I mean, there is still plenty of football trading action, don't get me wrong. There's always stuff during the summer as well. But yeah, there is top-level action, tennis trading action, pretty much all year round. And even recently in December, I've started to see a lot more matches springing up and all that sort of thing in tennis with very, very good liquidity. So that's something to keep in mind, as in there isn't really that much of a slow period apart from maybe December when it comes to tennis trading. The liquidity is good all year round. Now, when it comes to football trading, the best liquidity is usually on the European domestic leagues, like obviously the Premier League and Serie A and Bundesliga, and then the Champions League, etc. And liquidity definitely does dip on a lot of the action during the summer, okay, unless you've got a World Cup going on, of course. So that is something to keep in mind for those who do want to trade with the bigger stakes. If you are someone who uses stakes 4 figures plus, then yeah, it's understandable that you might want to scale back your football trading during the summer. But with tennis trading, if you are someone who uses 4-figure stakes, you can pretty much do that all year round. And like I said, even in December these days, you are getting more and more matches popping up that are very, very tradable with good liquidity. So that's something to keep in mind as well. And so a key difference when it comes to football trading versus tennis trading is that I would say with tennis trading, you usually always get a chance to get out of the market for maybe a scratch trade or even make a profit, even when the trade suddenly moves against you. And a number one mistake I see a lot of football traders make when they suddenly trade tennis is locking in losses too quickly. Now, if the market, a typical football trader gets in the market in tennis early on, if the markets move against them, they're very quick to red up the screen and lock in the loss. Now, I admire the discipline, of course. That's very, very good that you're willing to just lock in the loss and move on. But tennis always gives you a chance, all right? You should always err on the side that you're going to get a chance a bit later on, and you should maybe stick in the market for a little bit longer than that. And to be honest, I understand the reason why a lot of football traders do this, because if you're used to trading football, you know that if you get in the market and the goal goes against you, you're probably best to just lock in the red screen and move on, because you know it's a low scoring sort of game. You don't really want to have to gamble on there being another goal in your favor. So yeah, in football, it usually is the best thing to do at that point. Just try and limit your loss and get out. All right. But in tennis, if it goes against you initially, you don't always have to get out straight away. You could hang in there and wait and see what develops. Because, in tennis, there is always something that could happen. There's a lot of break points, especially in women's tennis, like I said. And you're much better off just being patient, not panicking, and seeing what happens, seeing what develops. And maybe instead of entering a trade to say, hey, I'm going to get out if the price moves against me here, maybe just say, hey, I'm going to get out at the end of the set if I don't get an opportunity to lock in a profit at some point. That's usually the much better way to approach it. So that is definitely the number one mistake I see a lot of football traders make when they first venture into the tennis markets. Is they're very quick to exit out and take a loss when actually you could stick in there and see what happens next. All right. So there is that. You're always going to get a chance in tennis trading because it is such a potentially high scoring sport. In football, not so much. Like we said, it could just be the one goal and that's it. So there is that. What else is there that I put on the list? I would say with tennis trading that you're not so helpless as well. All right. So when you enter a trade in tennis, it's not totally helpless as in because the markets can move with every single point, as I said. And there can be mini price swings which could work in your favor. So if your initial trade loses, you could maybe win one of these mini price swings, which could help relieve your liability. You know, there's all sorts of scalping and stuff you could do as well. Now, in football trading, you kind of get that sort of helpless feeling from time to time as well, because you can be so reliant on that goal. Okay, now we've all been there with a football trade, such as lay the draw, you get in the market, and then as soon as you get in the market, you see that price moving against you and moving against you. And it's just moving in one direction against you, right? Now, in tennis trading, if that price is moving against you, it's not completely always moving against you in one direction. There is going to be fluctuations in the meantime, which means that there is opportunity for additional mini trades that you could do, which could lower your liability and give you a chance to get into profit. But in football, it's the opposite. That price is just moving against you. There's no fluctuations. So you become more and more reliant on a goal. And then sometimes you do end up with that feeling that you're actually kind of hoping for a goal to get you out of a sticky trade. All right. So in tennis, there's always action that you could take. You're not so helpless. You're not so reliant on the break point. There is other stuff you could do when it comes to trade in tennis. So there is that. Like I said, with tennis, you're always going to get a chance, as I said here. So even when a trade isn't going right, there is the action you can take. You can mitigate your risk and potentially minimize your loss if obviously it's not totally going your way, because obviously there is going to be losses, and I'd much rather look to try and minimize my loss if it's not going my way, rather than kind of just sit there and pray that it's going to turn around and go from there. And then on that note, it also means that tennis trading can become a lot less stressful in that aspect, because you feel like you're always in control in some aspects, because you can get in the market. Like I said, if it starts to move against you and the trade isn't looking good, there's usually something else you could do which could lower the loss that you could potentially take. But with football, you're kind of there. You're looking for that goal, and if it doesn't arrive, then you're staring at a loss. And what can happen with football to make it more stressful is if you're watching a match anyway, you see a striker missing an open goal or something like that. As touched upon earlier, you get the goal, then it's reversed with VAR. You see a missed penalty. All those sorts of scenarios, they can really kind of add to the stress. It can get a little bit more stressful. And that's not to say that tennis doesn't have its moments of frustration. I've traded a lot of tennis where a player, they have the break point opportunity that you need, and they've got pretty much an open court to smash the ball into, and then somehow they hit the net or they hit it out. That can get a little bit annoying as well. But like I said, you're not so reliant on that break point. If anything, when they miss a break point in tennis, I don't get too stressed about it, because I know, do you know what? They might have another break point immediately. They might have another break point opportunity immediately, or they might have another one in a few minutes or a few points time. So you don't get that stressed out with it. But yeah, I mean, we've all been there. And don't get me wrong, I do love my football trading. But yeah, that can get a little bit stressful, seeing those sorts of situations arise. And at the end of the day, it's things like this which end up putting you on tilt. And when you get on tilt, that's when you start to do even more silly stuff like overstake, take trades that you shouldn't really take, and then blow your bank. So that is another aspect. I mean, I must admit, I'm definitely talking here more from a personal perspective, because there might be some watching this video saying, no, do you know what? I found tennis a lot more stressful than football. You know, fair enough. But I'm just only saying from my experience, I find tennis a lot less stressful to trade. A lot more fun. Sometimes I find it pretty relaxing as well. It's very calming because it's not so loud and in your face, and there isn't so much of the city drama that you can get with football from time to time. And then on that note, another one, which is from a personal point of view as well, because obviously, again, there might be some people watching this who think differently, fair enough. But I would always say, if you're coming from a football trading background and you're moving on to tennis trading, I think there's a high chance that you're going to have a lot less emotional involvement in tennis than you would do in football. And the emotional involvement in football trading can rear its head in multiple ways, all right? So sometimes it could be just the simple fact of you're trading the team you support, and maybe you really want them to win, or maybe you're scared that they're not going to win, so you lay them, or all that sort of stuff. I mean, you really shouldn't be trading football matches involving teams you support anyway, I don't think. I never think that's a good idea. But also, I mean, emotional involvement can just come from stuff like, a good example is from just this last football season. Real Madrid, pretty poor season, loads of bad results, very short prices, getting messed up. But a lot of people just kept on backing Real Madrid, always backing them. And every match that it came up, especially as those prices on Real Madrid got even higher and higher, more generous from the markets, simply because it's Real Madrid. I mean, if you've watched football for, ever, we all know what a big club Real Madrid is, right? So it doesn't surprise me when a lot of football traders were losing money last season, seeing pretty generous prices on Real Madrid to win certain matches, backing them, and then doing their brains, and then getting really frustrated because they're like, oh, what? How can a team like Real Madrid not win that match? And that sort of stuff can then put you on tilt. It can lead you to blowing your bank or overstaking, and then it just spirals out of control. And I would put that down to being emotional involvement, because you emotionally believe a big team like Real Madrid, they're surely going to win, rather than your head just looking at the situation and saying like, well, this team, Real Madrid, I mean, they're not actually playing that good. Maybe I shouldn't back them. But you see these examples happen all the time. I mean, I get emails from people all the time, and they literally use these words, stuff like, oh yeah, Barcelona, they went a goal behind, so I backed them because it's Barcelona. They always come back and win, right? When, to me, that's an emotional bet. That's not a bet based on any sort of mathematics or any sort of edge there. So that can happen very, very easily in football. But if you go from football to tennis, you're probably much less likely to have that sort of involvement. Don't get me wrong, I know it can happen on the big players, Andy Murray, Roger Federer, Djokovic, if you're a big fan of those players especially as well. It definitely can happen, but it's much less likely to happen. Number one reason is because the majority, probably 80% of matches that you're going to be trading when you're trading tennis are going to involve players that you've never even heard of, all right? Almost every day, I'm trading tennis matches, and I've never even heard of at least one of the players that is involved in the match. Because it's all numbers. It all comes down to the numbers. You kind of look at the recent form, you look at that, and then you're looking at how the match is developing. You're looking at how one player is serving versus the other player. You're looking at the scoreboard. who scored the break points, what's happening from there, and the prices at the same time. So it's all the markets, it's all the numbers, and there is a lot less emotional involvement. And I think that is actually a good thing, because when I don't know the players, I don't know their reputations, I'm much less likely to make an emotionally based trade. I'm much more likely to just look at the situation and make a trade based on the cold, hard mathematical facts. All right, so there's quite a lot of differences there between football trading and tennis trading. One thing I haven't put on the list is that I would definitely say tennis trading feels like the more pure trading sport. And one phrase that gets bandied around on forums and stuff like that is that tennis was made to be traded. It is that much of a great trading sport with the way the markets move with every single point. And then one other point I never even put on here as well, because there is so many key differences as well, is that tennis is usually a two-way market. Okay, you've got one player and you've got the other player. You don't have the draw to think about. So you know that if one player steams in price, the other player is going to drift, and it keeps it a lot more simple. There's a lot less stuff to kind of have to think about in your mind. You're not having to look to the goal markets, the hedge stuff, and the correct score market, and all that sort of thing. You keep all the action on the match odds market, and yeah, it's very simple. I mean, either one player's going to win or the other player's going to win. It's as simple as that. There's no other real big outcomes for you to have to worry about too much. So there you have it. Tennis trading, it's got a lot more opportunity per match, a lot more. And the trades you get involved in, they're a lot quicker as well. You're going to be in and out of the markets a lot quicker than your typical football trade. And tennis matches are easier to read. Yep, trust me. And this is coming from someone who has watched football since they were a kid. Tennis trading is a lot more simple to just read and understand, and you can watch a tennis match and very quickly identify who is the better player, and who is the player more likely to score the next break point than the other. No market suspensions, that was a big one that I touched upon, and no VAR. The VAR thing can make it a lot less frustrating, and it being frustrating can lead to tilt and can lead to a lot more worse things from that. So the no market suspensions is a big difference. There is action, top level action all year round. That is the main key difference. It never really lets up. There is big liquidity all year round. All right. With tennis, you're always going to get a chance. So you should always try and hang in the market and see what happens, because it is a potentially high scoring sport as opposed to football. Don't just see it go against you and then surrender. Hang in there. That is one of the main key differences to keep in mind. And then the other stuff I spoke about is that when you're in a tennis trade, you don't feel totally helpless. You're not over-reliant on that goal going in. You still need that break point, of course, but there is stuff you could do in the meantime. And I could show you trades where we could win a trade without even getting the break point, because the price moves so much in one direction. But I'll save that sort of stuff for another day anyway. And then like I was just talking about just now, it is a lot less stressful. And one of the main reasons for that is the less emotional involvement in this particular sport, if you're someone who's coming from a football trading background. So lots and lots to take in there with the main key differences between football trading and tennis trading. So now you should have a pretty good idea about the main differences between trading football and trading tennis. And also you should have a pretty good idea now about whether tennis is a sport you are interested in trading yourself, if you're not already. So anyway, for those who are interested in tennis trading and also want to take their tennis trading up to the next level, I will be opening the doors again to my premium video course, Ultimate Tennis Trading, very, very soon. And this is what gives you all the strategies that you need to trade tennis with, from set one to the final set, and also teaches you some of the stuff I mentioned earlier on in the video, like how to actually read the match in play, how to spot the opportunities both pre-match and also in play as well. So keep in mind, I only allow new members into Ultimate Tennis Trading a few times per year. So If you think that tennis trading sounds like something you want to get involved in and you want to learn more about this and get on the waiting list and be notified when the doors are open for this, then there is a link in the description of this video. Scroll down and you should see the link. It should be pretty easy to find. You just click on it and fill out your details. Make sure you put in your best email address, an email address that we can contact you on, okay? Don't put in a fake email address like some do. I'm not sure why they do that, but yeah, that's what you got to do. Put in your best email address, preferably not a Hotmail email address as well, all right? So there is that, if you're interested in that. Also, like I said, for those who stuck around to the end, if you're interested, if you haven't yet downloaded this is absolutely free to download. It's the Tennis Trading Odds Prediction Formula. It's a free PDF. Again, the links are below this video. Scroll down and check it out, and then you can click on that. And again, put in your real email address because I'm going to email the book to you, okay? But anyway, this book will basically allow you to easily predict where the odds are going to move to in a tennis match once it goes in play. So if you are new to trading tennis in any way, then this book is absolutely crucial because it will show you that the movements in tennis are not random. They can actually be very easily predicted. And once you learn this, then yeah, tennis trading overall just becomes that little bit easier. So like I said, this is absolutely free. You really should have this no matter what. So make sure you go and download it. It's very good for those who are new to tennis trading. And like I said, link is in the description. Put in your best email address, preferably not a Hotmail email address because those get lost, all right? Definitely do a Gmail or something like that. So that is that. I hope you've enjoyed the video. That is about it. If you've enjoyed the video, you're not yet a subscriber to the channel, hit the subscribe button. Also hit the notification bell. So when I release a new video, you're going to know instantly. You could be one of the first to check it out. And then, yeah, check the links in the description for your freebies if you want to apply for the course. And then also here are some new videos or maybe videos that you haven't yet seen for you to check out. So I hope you enjoyed the video and I'll see you guys in the next video.